Hey, Autumn Athletes, Larry Sorensen here. And today I'm going to have a chat with Maria Shaw and find out what makes her an Autumn Athlete that's not done yet. Remember, if you enjoy our content, please like, subscribe, and ding that bell for notifications. All right, we're going to start this thing off. Maria, thanks so much for joining us today. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thanks, Larry. Hi, yeah, Maria Shaw. I live in Leicestershire. I am 46 years old, master athlete, focusing mainly on 800 meters. Married, two kids, two girls who also do some level of running. Work in the corporate world as I've done for the last 25 years. So currently a managing director in a corporate bank. So that keeps me pretty active along with the athletics.
All right, well, it's great to meet you. Thanks again so much for joining us today. Before we start talking more about your masters, I want to get a little bit of history of your athletics. So give us kind of a snapshot of what you did maybe as a youngster and leading up till when you got involved with masters athletics.
Probably when I was in primary school, actually. I remember doing a primary school race, as you did, sort of what was deemed cross country then, around the local sort of route that we had. Did quite well at that, and school said, oh, maybe you should go and join an athletics track or club. So I went to what was my local club, Corby, and started training. I did the sprints back then and sort of progressed 200 up to 400, and yeah, focused on 400, and then sort of got into my late teens and started having issues with my hamstrings, which we'll no doubt end up talking about, the bane of my life 25 years later. And so I ended up stopping because of that. It became too much of an issue, but did reasonably well at 400. Really enjoyed that. And then just in my 20s and 30s, just sort of kept fit, went to the gym, didn't really compete, might have done the very odd 5K, but nothing more than that. And then sort of early 40s, started doing a little bit more running. My eldest daughter started running. She went to the local athletics club that we've got in Market Harborough. And then she moved over to Corby where there's a track. It was only there really that I discovered master athletics even existed. I didn't know it was a thing until I went there. And then my daughter's coach remembered me from when I was younger. And then I'd since joined his group. And yeah, sort of 4 or 5 years on, here I am.
You mentioned this bane of your existence. So you've obviously had a couple of setbacks through the way. Tell us a little bit about injuries, setbacks that you've had throughout your athletic career.
Yeah, really, to be fair, the main one has been that the hamstrings. So when I was late teens, they just started hurting after every session and they just never settled down. So it meant I couldn't train as much as I needed to or wanted to, like everybody else, because they were just constantly too painful. And my parents at the time took me to see somebody, and he thought it would be a good idea to operate on one of the hamstrings and take out scar tissue from that hamstring to fix the problem. But that didn't fix the problem. Then he put me under like a general anaesthetic to stretch the hamstrings beyond their normal range of motion. That never fixed the problem. So it just got to a point where I think I was getting to that age where socializing and drinking was probably becoming a bigger part of the life. And then combined with sore hamstrings, that sort of put that one to bed. But more recently, it's still been an issue with hamstrings hurting more than what they should do. And actually, it turns out it's not my hamstrings at all. It's my back that's causing the issues, and I'm feeling it in the hamstrings, but they're not the actual problem.
What is the problem exactly in your back? Have you figured that out yet? And how are you managing through that?
Yeah, well, start of this year, it sort of came back really where the hamstrings again just one day started hurting, not in both legs, started hurting for no real reason. Initially, I thought it was just DOMS because I'd done my first indoor race, and I thought, oh right, okay, well it must just be from that. And then it never went away, and it just sort of got worse. And I was focusing on the World Indoor Championships in Florida, and I was sort of determined to get through that. So I just carried on sort of training through it, thinking it must be hamstrings, having regular massages, etc. on them just to sort of keep them as fresh as I could. And then I had a little sort of pull strain in one of them a couple of weeks before Florida, which impacted the training on top of already existing painful hamstrings. And I thought, no, I'm just going to get through it. So I got through it, which was great. And then afterwards, I just sat there thinking, it can't be the hamstrings. Like, it's been going on for months now. It cannot be the hamstrings as the issue. So when I got back, I went and had a scan on the hamstrings and the back, and the hamstrings are absolutely fine. There's no sign of any issues with them. It is a disc bulge that I've got that's sitting on the nerve. and it's the nerve pain that is causing the pain I'm feeling in the hamstrings. So I've just had an injection into my back actually to try and sort of reduce the inflammation, and then obviously doing the rehab work around core strength, etc. So I'm hoping that's going to settle down and then I'll be able to get back on it.
You're still in the process, obviously, of working through this setback, but in recent times, you've managed to get through it and have some great success. So now's the time where we get to talk a little bit about some fun stuff and the successes that you have had. So give us a little list of some of your accomplishments, even if you had some when you were younger, but certainly the ones now as a masters athlete.
Yeah, so probably done better as a master athlete. As a junior athlete, still, performed reasonably well. I think the highlight was running for the Midlands. Back then it was in a it was England versus, I think, Wales versus Scotland. And then England was split into Midlands, North and South, and I was part of the Midlands team. So that was great. And then as a master, so the first couple of years, I think it's fair to say were a bit sort of bumpy in terms of getting back into training, body getting used to that. And so I had some, sort of okay, good years, and then really sort of increased the training, focused much more on the diet, nutrition side of things, the strength work. And then between 2022 and 2023, that was for me what I'd sort of call my breakthrough year. So I knocked 10 seconds off my 800 PB in that one season through, consistency of training over the winter. And then that year was my first international competition. So I went to Pescara, did the European Championships where I was second. And then last year I wanted to do the outdoor Gothenburg champs, but had an Achilles issue. So missed that one, hence was determined to do the Florida indoor champs, which I did the 800 and was third in that. So I was, happy with that. And then got a world record on the 4x800 indoor record with Zoe and Kirsty, who have obviously been on here. And then Nikki as well was our fourth member of the team.
So you've had that success. You're still, working through this little bit of injury. What's on the horizon for you? Do you have specific meets that you're targeting? Do you have specific times or maybe even different events that you're targeting?
I really want to get back to 400 actually. So in order to do that though, my body's got to be able to withstand sort of more speed work than what I do today. So that was going to be the aim for this season, but I think that will now sort of either be end of season or something I'll look at for maybe indoor or next year. So plan on racing next month, and then as much as I can over sort of July, August and September. And training had been going well up until I've just sort of taken a week's break. So up until that week's break, before I had the back injection, training was going well. I was running some good times. So for me, the next few months, it'll be get back into racing, hopefully put out some decent times over 800 and, enjoy it again as well. Because it's been a year since I've raced outdoors. So I'm literally desperate to get out and, have a race and just enjoy it really.
Give us a little idea of your training on the track, off the track, in the gym, cross training, whatever it is you do. What is it that makes you as successful as you're being?
Partly like consistency. So always trying to do a session, even if I don't feel great, trying to do what I can. If I feel an injury coming on, then try and do a bit of cross training. But typically for me, it's balancing it around work as well. So work for me can often mean traveling a couple of hours into London for a day's work to come home and train. So I'll often train in the morning, commute down to London, day's work, come home, train in the evening. So it's kind of the commitment and the focus. Like for me, setting goals is what then drives me to get up early, do a run before a day's work, come home, perhaps do a gym session, and then rinse and repeat the next day. So consistency. And then track work. So I'm part of quite a large group. Our group has got sort of youngsters as young as maybe 7 or 8. And then the eldest person in our group, hope they don't mind me saying if they're watching this, is sort of 70-ish. So we've got a real range, and that for me actually is really inspiring. There's a lady in our group, Karen, who won the 800 and the 1500 in Gothenburg last year at the World Champs in the 65 age group. And then she set some world records sort of over the winter as well. So she's really inspiring in terms of what she's done throughout her masters. career. And then some of the juniors, are absolutely sort of on fire this year, and that spurs me on in training because I'll always try, and the teenagers in particular, try and keep up with them as much as possible. So, that really helps me train as part of a group.
Mhm.
So yeah, 3 times a week we train on the track, and then gym work will be twice a week plus a plyometric session, and then some more like cardio, either like long runs. Have tried more cross training over the winter to try and just balance the load. So perhaps for me that might be going on the epulator or rower or bike, and trying to sort of mix it up with a bit of that along with running. Although it is hard because I do love running and my body doesn't like a lot of cross training. If I try and cross train, it creates another sort of niggle. So running is always the preference, but I know there's a need to balance it as you get older.
All right, so break down one of your track workouts. Give us kind of maybe your favorite or your what you think is your most intense track workout. What do you do?
Oh, it varies as well during the winter and summer, obviously. So the winter we go to a park on a Saturday and we'll often do something like 6, 7 lots of 3 minutes running around a particular course that our coach lays out. And that for me sort of, it sounds like it's easy, but you start up in the number of reps, bringing down the recovery. You're running up hills, and quite quickly, by about the fifth rep, we're all hanging and ready for the session to be over. So, but equally, we all feel the benefit of doing that sort of cross country training. So that for me is quite a hard one. And then on the track, 4 times 300 is probably one of my least favorite sessions. Sounds easy. You say, oh, it's only four, it's only 1,200 meters. But if you've paced those first two wrong, then you're really feeling it on the third and the fourth. And I think it's fair to say by the fourth rep, the lactic acid in the arms, fingers, and pretty much anywhere in the body that you can feel it. So that's probably least favorite. And then I actually quite do enjoy the shorter stuff. So things like 150s. There's a particular session where we do 3 lots of 4 150s. I quite enjoy that. And then, yeah, the occasional bit of speed work, quite enjoy as well.
So when you're doing your 4x3s, what kind of rest are you taking in between?
Sometimes it's 5 minutes. Last night the group did actually, and they were about 7 minutes recovery. So yeah, it can vary depending on. Last night was quite warm. We're in some sort of heat wave at the moment. So yeah, so 5 minutes is an absolute killer. Longer recovery helps a little bit with the lactic acid.
So when you go into a gym from a weightlifting perspective, are you just focused on legs? Are you doing total body? Give us a little idea of what you do. Heavy reps or, heavy low reps. You're doing high light reps.
Yeah, I do full body. And the gym for me is still fairly new. I only started in the gym after the Europeans, actually. Before then, I just did stuff at home. But yeah, we'll typically be full body, heavier weights in the winter, and then lighter weights, but perhaps more reps in the summer. It just sort of changes the intensity of it just to help balance it with the more intense sessions on the track in the summer. And therefore, the weights just sort of back off a bit in terms of the amount that I lift.
So we get a little glimpse into your training. How about fueling your body? How do you eat? Tell us a little bit about your diet, maybe intervals of diets. Do you count macros? Any of that kind of stuff. Just kind of give us an overall idea of how you approach your diet and nutrition.
So tried to focus on that in the last couple of years. Again, prior to that, didn't really sort of put any focus in on it. And it's fair to say I could quite easily eat a bar of chocolate in one sitting. So the last sort of 2 years, I've tried to sort of focus in on that, increase the protein, reduce the sugar. Carbs, obviously, I need to help fuel, but my body does seem to work better on slightly lower carbs and higher protein. So I don't count the macros on a daily basis, but typically I'll make sure, if I'm going to do a training session, I've had some carbohydrates before it, try and refuel as quickly as possible after a session, which will be a mix of protein and carbohydrates. And then, yeah, throughout the day, I snack quite a lot in terms of mid-morning snack, afternoon snack, along with obviously breakfast and lunch, and just, yeah, try and make healthy choices. Not always possible, but at work they tend to take the mickey out of me because I'll be the one sort of going in with my homemade soup and yogurt and berries in the afternoon and trying to avoid the sort of canteen and shops.
So how do you get your protein? Are you a meat eater? Are you plant-based? What's approach do you take there?
Mainly meat, I would say. I mean, some plants. I'm trying to sort of get better and increase the number of plant plant-based proteins or plant-based foods that I have. But yeah, predominantly meat, eggs, eat a fair amount of, trying to increase them a little bit. Fish will eat on a regular basis as well. So yeah, it tends to be more of that, but trying to eat more of the pulses and grains than what I've done previously.
All right, so switching gears a little bit, you're in that stage of life, 46, you've got kids, you're, climbing the corporate ladder, and then now you're trying to be a world-class athlete at the same time. So you mentioned a little bit of kind of your daily schedule, but kind of tell us a little bit more. How do you fit all that in and still get the proper rest you need to be able to function and train well and compete well?
Yeah, it can definitely be tricky. So you'll often find me on a Saturday afternoon having a nap on the sofa after a hard morning's training. So yeah, Mondays would typically be short run or cardio in the morning, weights at night. Tuesday is track night. Wednesday would be similar to a Monday, but I'd be doing plyometrics rather than sort of heavy weights. Thursday track, Friday rest, Saturday track or park in the winter, and then Sunday long run plus gym session, and then yeah, naps on a weekend. But people often think they are too busy, like they're a parent, they work, don't have time, and I guess for me, I'd like people to see that you do have time. Like I'm a full-time working parent of two, and so the fact that I have been able to do the training to be able to compete at a high level, I'd hope equally people would take sort of motivation from that they can do it, they can achieve it, they can work out how it can fit into their schedules, then they absolutely can do it. And that shouldn't be a barrier for them.
So what would you say you get for sleep during the week?
I'm actually not a great sleeper. So I'll be in bed by 10 o'clock. But one of the areas I'd love to do better at is better quality sleep. So my Garmin will give me a sleep score, and I'll often compare it to my husband's and try and wonder how he manages to get a score of the 90s, and mine's like in the 60s or 70s. So I do try for sort of 8 hours sleep, but yeah, the quality I'd love to improve.
So at 46, with all this going on, what is keeping you motivated to put in all this extra effort to compete in Masters track and field?
I think there's a couple of things for me. I think one is, I do wish I'd got into it earlier, and you can't turn back time. It's obviously that doesn't happen. So I still feel like I've got more to give. I don't feel like I've run at my best. And so that motivates me because I think there's more to come. And therefore I'm keen to sort of, I guess, do what I can before I get to a point where performance starts to plateau or, decline as we get a bit older. So yeah, that definitely is a big motivating factor. If I ever cross the line in any race and I think that's it, there's no way I could have run quicker, then I know for me that I'll probably be time to perhaps think about something different. But right now, I'm pretty confident I can run quicker than what I've done before.
So you said you couldn't turn back time, but if you could turn back time, is there anything you would have adjusted a little bit in regards to your athletics or health and fitness in general?
I just think, yeah, maybe I'd have got into masters earlier because it is such a great sort of community, loads of opportunity, and the fact that you can travel to events and experience things like Europeans or the world, like it's absolutely amazing, and it's an experience you just won't get in many places. And meeting other master athletes like is hugely inspiring, looking at what they do, what they've achieved. So that's the bit I kind of feel like I wish I'd done earlier, because I just think like when I do the events, it is really good and it's such a great experience. The memories I've got from the competitions that I've done stay with me forever, and it's great for the kids as well. But one of my kids was able to come out to Florida, and so for her to sort of experience come into that sort of championship was amazing for her, and it's a memory now that she's going to have forever.
So you mentioned that you really didn't know anything about Masters Athletic and got involved kind of through your daughter and so forth. So what would be your advice to folks out there watching this that say, hey, maybe I'd like to get involved in this?
I mean, one is you're never too old to do it. So don't ever think that you're past that point. And two, don't feel like you're not quick enough to do it. I know some people that have been, apprehensive about coming to a track, but actually you don't need to be. Masters is a great community. There's people of different ages, abilities. Everybody's really encouraging. So it doesn't matter if it's something that you want to do, you've got a passion for it, then look at your local club and go along and have a go is what I'd say, because I'm sure once you sort of have the courage to go and have a go, it'd be something that you'll realize you'll really enjoy, you want to do more of, and hopefully end up sort of getting into it and enjoying it in the same way that we all do.
If you could bottle your secret sauce, I call it, to health and fitness, what would the ingredients of that recipe be?
I think one is definitely consistency. Like that for me has been one of the big things. As I say, when I had my big improvement from 2022 to 2023, that was all about consistency. I never missed a session for the whole winter. So that is definitely one. And then looking after your body as well. And I'm probably still learning, about that for me as well, in terms of, what might be a sign that an injury's coming and therefore take action, as opposed to running through it. And I'm probably the run through it and then look back and think, oh, if I just hadn't done that last rep or that last session. So I'm still learning that, but I think that's a real important one, especially as you get older, to really think about actually knowing when to call it a day or call it a session. It is far harder to do than carrying on, but is absolutely the right thing to do. So I'd say that. And then I guess it's like looking at the overall picture as well. I always think like running is just one component of it. And then like you've touched on, the nutrition, the strength work, the rest, the recovery, like they are just as important as the actual running sessions themselves.
So we're gonna switch gears just for a second and have a little fun, get to know your personality just a little bit. So if you were gonna go out to, let's say, watch the movies, would it be a comedy, action, or romance?
Now, I have a reputation for falling asleep in cinemas, so it definitely would have to be something that's easy viewing, that is going to keep me awake. So probably, yeah, more likely a comedy, to be fair. More recently, it's been sort of Disney films with the kids, but yeah, more a comedy. If you put a sci-fi on, I will fall asleep, guaranteed.
What is kind of your go-to pump up jam song?
I actually have a variety. So I've got playlist, and it's some of it is like just typical upbeat chart music, and then there's some of Whitney Houston's songs, which sounds a bit random, but some of her songs seem to really sort of motivate me in some of the words that are in them. So yeah, it can be a real mix. I want some that's upbeat to sort of keep me going through a run, and then some that just focus that sort of motivation.
You have one specific song or artist that really you would put at the top?
So currently, so some days, Sunny Federa, that's one I like to play a fair amount actually when I'm running. Show Me Love and Living My Best Life, Jessie J. I'd probably say the top ones that I'm playing at the moment on the treadmill playlist.
If someone's going to give you a sports car, would it be a convertible or a coupe?
I think I'd have to say convertible, because the kids would enjoy it. And it'd be a little experience for them. So I'll go convertible.
How about beach house, penthouse, or farmhouse?
So I would say beach house for a holiday, farmhouse to live in. Yeah, so I'd be greedy and I'd have two. I'd have, what one it'd be like living in New York and having a sort of place in New York, and then somewhere in the Hamptons. That's sort of the equivalent, isn't it? But yeah, no, I definitely would have, yeah, beach house for long summer holidays, and then a nice little farmhouse to live in.
All right, Maria, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. I want to just wrap up here by giving you a minute to address our audience and give us some final thoughts.
Yeah, no, perfect. Look, thank you for having me as well. It's been great to come on. And yeah, for all those or anybody that's listening and is wondering about getting involved in Master Athletics, then definitely do. If you see us on Instagram, feel free to drop me a message, or equally, look up your local club. You will find lots of friendly, supporting faces. So definitely go and get involved.
Well, there you go, folks. Maria Shaw. She is definitely an autumn athlete that's not done yet. Remember, keep moving, set your own goals, and train hard to achieve them. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.